This is the only game in Greg Hjorth's greatest hits that was not played by Greg Hjorth, but he was intimately involved in winning the game. It was played at the Lucerne Olympiad in 1982. This was probably Australia's best ever Olympiad performance. It was the Olympiad where Darryl Johansen achieved a Grandmaster result, the first Australian ever to achieve that result. It was also an Olympiad where Australia spent more or less the entire Olympiad on between boards 5 and 10, playing a series of extremely strong countries. We had some big wins. We beat Canada. We were in fact winning against Canada within a couple of hours. The Canadian delegate described it as the blackest day for Canadian chess ever. But by the end of the Olympiad he wasn't feeling so bad because the Australian team was doing well. Both Darryl Johansen and Greg Hjorth were integral parts of the team. The only person who was failing, I guess, was me on board 1. But this is played in the second last round against Romania, and it was a successful match for Australia, but mainly because of Greg Hjorth's German analysis. When this game was adjourned between Darryl Johansen and Mihail Ghinda, around this point, Darryl was very pessimistic about his chances of holding the game, because he was just worried the black king would walk to d4, c3, b2 and just help the black pawn to queen. There were lots of ways for white to try to take the pawns on the king side, but everything seemed too slow. But working with Greg Hjorth, who had boundless optimism, eventually Greg found a particular line that looked dead for white but turned out to be quite dangerous. And then, as Greg pointed out, it didn't just draw the game, it won the game. This was also a match where Robert Jamieson had played Florent Gheorghiu on board 1 and made a very easy draw, much to the upset of the Romanians, because at that time Gheorghiu was a world-class player. This was in fact the game that secured the Grandmaster result for Jamieson. Unfortunately, in the very last round, the round after this, Australia lost very heavily against Bulgaria and dropped about 30 places, so we finished only around 40th or something like that, instead of being right up the top. But in terms of performance, it certainly was a strong one. So here's Johansen. Well, first of all, after h5, Johansen has to try to take as many pawns as possible or stop the black king. So after check, rook b5, rook a4, just to keep that king out. And finally, after Ghinda has put all his rooks on the best possible squares, he goes for it with the king. King up, rook takes h5, already will probably allow e5 followed by a2, so he tries to take the e-pawn, and Ghinda decides to save that one. Here he doubles behind the pawn to try to stop it advancing, but unfortunately it's not that easy to do. Here they tried many things to keep the rooks on the A file, but it turned out that white really sort of ran out of squares at some point. This was a position where Johansen was eventually deciding this is more or less hopeless. But Hjorth pointed out perhaps he could just take this h5 pawn. Now, if a2, you can go back again, so you have to stop that rook getting back. And now, instead of trying rook a7, which is met by rook b7 and then a2, a1, he just swapped the rooks and played f3. And f3 was Hjorth's idea. Of course, white could also play h3, but by playing f3, when black captures, the white king takes, and at least that white king is somewhere near keeping the black king out of the game. Now, Ghinda should probably take on f3 here and play a2, threatening rook b3 check. And it turns out that black has a way to draw this, but Ghinda still thought he was winning. He wins the rook. Here, takes, queen, take, take. And at first sight, this will be fine for black. If white pushes the pawns, black king just runs all the way back. The rook will stop the pawns in time. But in fact, Hjorth had discovered that what you need to do is use your king. King up. Now whenever e5 check happens, the king will come to f5 and help the pawns. And when black comes back, g5, back, g6. And all of a sudden, h4, h5, h6, and the black king is not getting back. So black can win that pawn on e4 with rook e5, but it doesn't really help. The white pawns will just push through. For example, if rook e5, g7 wins immediately. So you have to go back, the pawn advances, and there's just nothing to be done here. One check, and king takes, but the pawns are extremely fast. Check, king g4, and now, to the surprise and upset of his teammates, Ghinda found that he had to resign because those white pawns were going through. It turns out that there was a saving grace for black, but a long way back, and only if he realised that he wasn't the one playing for the win. And I think it was Greg Hjorth's mindset that he was looking for ways for white to win rather than just to draw that helped him create these chances. And of course, Johansen had to play the moves, but Greg Hjorth found the ideas. So that was, well, helping Australia to another successful match at the Olympiad. And, well, Greg and Darryl were, of course, very good friends, and this just showed what you could do. Remembering, of course, back in the old days, adjournment sessions were just 2 hours, so you really didn't have a lot of time. You had to eat as well. So Greg found that idea in a very short amount of time. And I should remind people that was before the days of putting it on Stockfish or Houdini and finding what to do.